Oh, friends, I am ready to serve the tea tonight. Hey, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 9 of Berserk. And last episode set up a possible conspiracy theory, so there's that. Where the court of the Midlands has just had it with Griffith's hotness. They've just had it with him having his way, being popular. They've gotten their burn books out, and they've decided that he's got to go. And in true Regina George fashion, they're going to do it with a poison arrow. Supposedly. Now, do I think Griffith's going to die to a poison arrow? No, he becomes king. We know that from episode 1. But there's a very strong chance that somebody in the party could get hit with this poison arrow and it cause a lot of problems, right? There's a very strong chance of that. So it's important to be on high alert this episode, I feel like, because there's a lot of tension running through the court and it's all directed at Griffith. And Griffith has got a plan, you know. There's a lot going on, but we do have a lot more comments now that things are picking up on YouTube and Patreon, so I'm excited about that. Everybody's been super chill, super nice about the comments, which is very helpful because I'm going in blind. So, and I know that most people who've encountered Berserk have like years of experience with it, and so it's been very nice that everybody's been so nice. I know that I've been looking at them. I've been comparing this series a lot to Vinland Saga, and recently at Comic-Con, the creator of Vinland Saga was there talking about being, you know, having a relationship with the creator of Berserk, and had sadly scheduled to go eat dinner with him before he passed. It didn't happen, and I was like, that's the saddest thing I've heard of in a long time. But yeah, so I want to talk about these comments real quick. I've been praising the soundtrack. The soundtrack's amazing. I don't want to get it now because I feel like a lot of times track titles are spoilery, and so I'm like, I'll just hold off and wait till it's over. But once this anime is over, once I'm done, I want to get it. We were talking in the Discord and the comments about it. It'd be very cool to just play the soundtrack while reading the manga, like faintly in the background. That might be fun. We'll see if that works out. But speaking of which, Bright Girl and Melania the Severed noted about the harp music theme, and that it is Behelit is what it's called, which makes sense. Griffith's wearing the Behelit when he's fighting Guts, and when all the harp music kicks in, it's very ethereal and surreal. It makes sense. And the song from episode 3 is called Forces, and I freaking love that song. It's amazing. I want to play it every morning when I go to work. But yeah, so Reptov 1954 noted, I was talking about the pointy ears. I've been talking about this entire time, and sometimes the animation shows the pointy ears, sometimes it doesn't. But Reptov 1954 said the pointy ears are just Miura the mangaka style. They just like drawing them, and I'm like, cool, good enough. I like that. I like that that's just a mangaka thing. They just enjoy drawing it that way, and there's nothing really to it. They're like, that's just kind of their thing. I'm like, fine. I feel like every mangaka has a certain stylistic trait that they use in all of their character designs. I'm cool with that, so thank you for noting it. And then we've had a little bit of voice actor information, but K.A., of course, guru of the Japanese voice actors, gave a big old list of people playing who, and some of them, I am amazed that in 1997 was doing Berserk, and they are still, nearly 30 years later, doing voice acting. It's insane. But the voice actor for Griffith is the same as Poe from Bungo Stray Dogs, which I've just been watching, and also as Blanca from Banana Fish. What a range to go from the ethereal princely Griffith to Poe from Bungo Stray Dogs, who's like Rapacoon, and then to be Blanca, the assassin from Banana Fish. I mean, that kind of range is very fun for a voice actor because they're like a chameleon. A lot of voice actors are typecast, and so you kind of like, you know what character you're getting into when you see that voice actor. But with this scenario, with Griffith, I don't know, because he's voiced so many different types of characters. Also has voiced Ruth Verne from Vanitas, who is a villain, and then mini BL series, which made me smile. I was like, yes, Griffith being all the BL series. Say all them cheesy, schmaltzy lines. Let's hear it. I loved that. Corcus's voice actor plays Matt in Death Note. Love it. I'm going to go back and watch Death Note now so I can listen to Matt and hear Corcus. That'd be fun. And then Rickard's voice actor. K.A. mentioned some series that were kind of like minor roles, but I did want to know, the one that stuck out to me was that Rickard's voice actor plays Axel, Lutz, and Loop, the triplet girls from Yuri on Ice. So it's a voice actress, I'm assuming, that plays Rickard's character. Love it. All for it. The one that's interesting, Gambito is played by the same voice actor as Cell from Dragon Ball Z. Makes sense. And Vicious from Cowboy Bebop. Makes total sense. Very appropriate. The one that was surprising to me is the voice actor for Judo. Not only because they're a veteran voice actor who's still voice acting today, but because of the roles that they've done today. Like the voice actor for Judo, freckle face, blonde hair, background character Judo, is the voice actor for Fyodor from Bungo Stray Dogs, Akaza from Demon Slayer, and the shapeless one from Vanitas. I was like, wow, they voiced some really scary characters, and they're here voicing this freckle-faced kid. I like to imagine that every voice actor starts out in certain places. I like to imagine that this is where this voice actor started out. They just started out right here at voicing this character, and from there it launched them into these big mega roles. But that's so freaking cool to me. I love that so much. So yeah, those are my comments. I'm really excited. I got a little itch on my head, but I'm really excited. I can't wait to see what we get in this episode. But the conspiracy's been laid out there. Now the question is Griffith going to find out about it? What's going to happen? What's it going to lead to? We'll just have to find out. So I'm excited. I hope you all are too, but we're not going to waste any more time. We are going to start Berserk episode 9, and we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's see that old hand and that Behelit, shall we? Is it weird that this is like my comfort anime? Is that weird? Is that weird? I know. This is a very long-running series, and it's going to get dark. I know it is. I'm very aware, and I'm sure that at some point, there's going to be a tipping point where it's like, oh no, Romania, this is not a comfort anime. But I'm going to be honest, I kind of view this like a comfort anime the same way I view like Game of Thrones. Like the first couple seasons of it was like a comfort anime. Not the gore or the violence, but just like there's something very comfortable about getting to know these characters and getting involved in what they're thinking and learning about their dynamics and seeing it all play out. There's something very comforting about it, and it's really weird to say it that way. And then it's also like we're in this like shoujo-esque love square at this point, where I'm like, really? So we need to talk about it. I was like, this is very much a romance as much as it is anything else, which is hilarious because I didn't see that coming. I didn't see that coming in this series. I was like, man, we're getting a lot of romantic subplots and gossipy rom-com goodness in here. And then on top of it, I'm like, I never imagined I would see Griffith and Guts in a library office together, like in a drawing room. But oh man, Griffith honey, you are the smoothest of operators. I'm kind of floored. Like Griffith plays it so smooth and so good that you just look at him and go, how, man? I feel like Casca's figured out the game. I don't know, figured out part of it, right? And she's just kind of like, but it's not going to stop her from caring about him. So she's just like, get out of the way, bitch. And then I feel for Charlotte, right? I do feel for Charlotte. I feel because Charlotte, girl, you are being hook, lined, and sinkered into this. And and Guts, oh my God, we need to talk about this episode. There's a lot going on, and a lot of manipulation, and a lot of remember when I told you that? Now we're going to put a lot of seeds that were planted are now being harvested in a way. So, and I wanted to bring that up and talk about it, right? But this episode, and that Behelit, I'm going to talk about the Behelit too. I'm going to bring out red for the Behelit, and I want to bring out, we'll do orange is hard to see on Whiteboard Coon. We're going to bring out blue and then black, of course. But Griffith is my favorite character, by far. I don't feel the most warmth around Griffith, quite the opposite. Griffith is the most interesting. He is the biggest manipulator. He is a Shakespearean villain in the making. I'm waiting for the heel turn. I'm waiting for the reveal. I'm so excited by it. But Griffith is by far my favorite character because of how just dynamic and intriguing he is. And I want to know more about him. But I have a soft spot in my heart for Guts in a lot of ways, because Guts is like, he just, bless him. I just want to be like, bless his bones. He just doesn't understand how he's being used by Griffith. Used, I tell you. And then Casca, I feel for her too. because she's like, girl, I've been there. It sucks. And she sees what's happening, and she's just like, well, son of a bitch. But I like the way she handles it. We'll talk about that. And like all the characters, Pippin hasn't had a lot to do lately, which is fine. But Judo and Rickard have been there in this episode, and then Corcus, of course. Corcus, we'll talk about him. But there's so much going on, and I want to go through this episode. And so we have the the intro with Chaney there plotting everything. What's very interesting is at the very beginning in the OP, we see the exact we see the OP start out, and Guts has like the white cast with the red eyes. Griffith looks like that for a hot second in this episode, and it was very creepy. So I'm like, I wonder if we're gonna get something with that later on. Maybe. But so we go to the hunting assassination. We just went from conspiracy to assassination like that, man. So the whole fox hunt and the dog hunt, like Fox and the Hound, the whole idea of the hunt where they use dogs to just chase down this fox and wear it out. And then they gave up on it and they switched over to boars. I've never understood the appeal of hunting. My father hunted deer. My father has gone on a boar hunt before, and with all the guys, and I've been deer hunting with him before. It is the most boring thing. But when you deer hunt, you sit and you wait for the deer to come to you. It's so boring. And I'm just like, okay, let's get this over with and go. Right? But we actually ate the deer that we hunted. So there was kind of like a circle of life towards sort of thing. And deer are stupid, by and large. But I have, unfortunately, been on a horrible date with someone that wanted to go raccoon hunting. And it's kind of like this fox hunting, chasing by dogs. Why? But yeah, so I'm with Charlotte. I am with her. I understand her plight, where she's like, God, I don't want to be here. This is the most boring thing of all. But yeah, so the idea of the fox being hunted by the hounds, which is interesting. And I wonder if that's going to come back, and if the band of the hawk are going to become the hounds hunting the supposed... Because honestly, if you want to look at it metaphorically, Julius and old Hale are considered the foxes in this episode that were supposedly supposed to be like sneaking into the hen house and plucking the rooster, aka Griffith, and getting rid of him. That's not what happens, and now the tables have turned, right? So basically, don't piss off Griffith, because you will probably suffer for it. But yeah, so we see the king watching the hunt and everything, and they talk about how the king's not in the best of health, so he probably shouldn't get involved. And then old Julius is like hanging out like Columbus in the back with this big old hat and feather, looking super sus, just being very suspicious, and just waiting for the right moment to strike. And I do like that Griffith keeps his distance away from all of them, so he's kind of like, it almost paints Griffith to be this innocent bystander, that he's just there, but he happens to be with Charlotte. This is by design, right? Because let's talk about old Charlotte. Let's talk about Charlotte in this sweetheart, blessed her bones. She is, I feel for Charlotte because she's an innocent in all this. She doesn't know what's going on. She's just the king's daughter. She's like, what do I do with myself? But this is the first time, the first hunt she's been brought to. Now, that is not by accident. No. Do we think that the king is trying to play matchmaker with Griffith and Charlotte? Yeah, I think so. I mean, the king clearly likes Griffith. He's been going on and on about him for how many months now? He really likes Griffith. He thinks that he's rising up the ranks. He's made him a count, which is on the same... I didn't talk about this last episode, but basically Julius is also a count. So he's like on the same level nearly as him. So the king thinks a lot of Griffith. And Griffith plays the game smart. Griffith has got the game down. We need to put Griffith over here and talk about his game, right? So with Griffith and his game, he has been making himself well-versed. And we'll talk about that at the end with knowledge of various things, right? We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. But he knows that Charlotte is his ticket to the crown. Because if he gets rid of Julius and marries Charlotte, well... then there's nobody to stand in his way. We don't know about the boy. We don't know if the little boy is Julius's son or if he's the king's son. I'm assuming he's Julius's son or the son of that guy from the last episode, because if he was the king's son, he would be next in line for the throne. So I mean, yeah, if Julius is out of the way, then Griffith's got it made. He's like, I just get in with Charlotte and I'm good to go. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. I don't even have to kill the king. I can become king right now. It's great. I'm wondering, my question is, do I think that Griffith will assassinate the king? Do I think he's going to kill the king or not? And I think it depends on a couple of things. I think it depends on the circumstances. So if the court people that were surrounding Julius find Julius's assassination suspicious and think that it was Griffith, then Griffith might try to expedite the process and be like, let's get married, let's get your dad out of here so I can become king. Could see that. Or do we think it's going to be something like the king mentioned in this episode, he's like, oh, I'm a lot frailer than I used to. I'm like, is that a red flag that he's going to get sick? Because if Griffith marries Charlotte and then the king just mysteriously or coincidentally gets sick, then it will give Griffith the throne. So maybe that's how he becomes king. I don't know. At this point, I can't see Griffith killing the king, but if he's that power hungry, yeah, maybe he will. I don't know. This is, at the end of the episode, is the first time we see Griffith make a move that is a bit risque. Up until now, Griffith has played it very calmly, very coolly, very by the rules. And this is the first time at the end that we see him do something dangerous. And it's like, ooh, okay. Things are being put in motion, and we'll talk about it as we get to it. But he's there with the princess on his horse with his beautiful cape and everything, looking like a damn model. And I do like I said in the reaction, I'm glad that it's not just Casca with the pink in the outfits. You see it on like the frock of Julius, and you see it on the underside of Griffith's cape. There's pink undertones in lots of things, which I'm glad about, because I didn't want it to be like a stereotypical Casca's wearing pink because she's a girl. Other characters are wearing it as well, so that's fun. And so we have Hale. Hale is so suspicious this episode. He was just like, hey, boss, you ready? When we gonna do it, boss? Like he could not have been more obvious. But yes, they chase the fox. And then, so I really like the idea of Guts and Charlotte's reactions to the hunt. I like that Guts just yells at the fox. He just goes, ha! And the fox is like, oh God, no. And just runs away. That's all Guts does to contribute. He just yells at the fox. It's the funniest damn thing. I love it. And he's just like, I love his little like grumpy face. And he's like, when the fox leaves, it's so cute. And they're like, well done, kid. And he's like, what? I just yelled at the fox coming at me. It's so freaking funny. And he's just like, this is so boring. He's like, there's no use getting sore. And then Rickard and Judo come up. And he's like, I don't get sore. And I love that Rickard's like, your feelings are all over your face, mister. And Rickard's like, you're being really obvious, mister. I just love Rickard with the Opie voice from all that. So let's talk about Guts. We'll talk about Guts, Casca, and the crew. We'll put them all over here, right? Because Julius is pretty easy to read at this point. He's just trying to kill Griffith because Griffith's a threat. So yeah, so let's talk about Guts. We'll put him on here. The Guts, he has no use for upper society and traditions. I mean, Guts was raised practically in a ditch by a bunch of mercenaries whose only rules were like the strongest survive and if you're weak, you'll die. So Guts really has no concept of like societal expectations or rules. Guts doesn't want to be a king. He doesn't want to be a knight. He doesn't want any of that. That is kind of bringing up the question of what is Guts's purpose, right? And at this point, what does Guts live for? At this point, it's to protect and serve Griffith. That's really all he has. Like, if you think about it, Guts isn't loyal to any army. He's not loyal to a king. He doesn't have any big aspirations. He doesn't have any, like, goals to, like, rise up the ranks and do whatever. Instead, he just wants to protect Griffith because Griffith's the first person to really acknowledge him and kind of take him in as an equal. Seemingly. So yeah, so as far as Guts is concerned, he believes that him and Griffith, I'm going to put this little like two-way line here. He believes that they see each other, similarly. And that Griffith cares for Guts. Yeah, about that. that he cares for Guts. Guts is like, nobody's really ever cared for me or said they do something for me. And Griffith said, you know, do I have to have a reason to put my life on the line for you? And that came back in this episode, you know, just to benefit Griffith. So as far as Guts knows, he doesn't really have any ambitions or any goals. He's just kind of, he seems aimless, right? He's just there. But he's there to protect Guts, or he's there to protect Griffith. That's Guts' entire purpose, right? And he just doesn't see the point of anything else. He doesn't quite understand it. He's like, I don't get why we're doing this. I love that little face that Rickard makes, like, I'm just saying. I love that. I love that Rickard has that cute little face. It's adorable. He's like, why do we have to watch these nobles play around? Isn't this boring? It's ridiculous. And Judo's like, well, we've got no choice. This is our duty, too. It's part of it. And he's like, besides, this is easier to deal with than fighting on some battlefield. Judo's like, I mean, let's be real. This is a lot easier than fighting on the battlefield. Why wouldn't you want this? Like, don't you want peace? And he's like, there's no need. I love that Rickard is like a walking contradiction each episode where he's like, well, there's no reason for us to worry about being killed. And then 10 minutes later, like, Griffith gets shot in the heart. I'm like, Rickard, are you trying to jinx everybody? Is that your goal in this series? And then Guts is like, look, I like swinging my sword in battle. It's my nature. So as far as Guts goes, his nature is to fight. And violence is a part of his nature. It's just who he is. Violence and battle is just, it's how he's been raised. It's all he knows. So he's like, this whole standing around and having this like fancy hoity-toity society stuff, he's like, I don't like any of this. He's like, I'd rather fight, right? And then Corcus is like, can you not be any more complicated? He's like, are you such a simpleton? And I love when Rickard says, Corcus, you again. Rickard is I say Griffith is my favorite. Rickard might be a close second. I freaking love Rickard. He's the most adorable. He's like, you again. He's such a shady bitch, but then he masks it by being absolutely adorable. He's like, shut up. And he says, listen, it's a very important honor. And he basically explains the whole thing about the white dragons and the fall hunt. And he's like, look, we beat out all these guys that are best. We were singled out and granted this privilege, so we should, you know, take advantage of it and be honored by it, right? Corcus is like, this is kind of a big deal that we're here. And Guts just doesn't care. Guts is like, we've had to run back and forth in battle for years to reach this point and win real status. How dare you call this ridiculous? And Guts is just like, He's like, if you love wielding your sword so much, suit yourself. Corcus is like, I didn't come here for this. No. I feel like I've talked in the past when we started this series about how Corcus reminds me a little bit of Jean from Attack on Titan. I think Jean is a lot more compassionate and heartwarming than Corcus. But there is one thing that sticks out to me, and it's not really a spoiler for Attack on Titan, but Jean's character in the series, and this happens very early on, you find it out very soon in the series, that his character has a thing about wanting to have the comfort of upper society. He wants the comforts of being in a good status so he doesn't have to worry so much. And I get that vibe with Corcus. I get the vibe with Corcus that he wants to kind of be more comfortable and work his way up, right? The thing that's different is that while they're going through this, Casca has been like, hey, let's act right so Griffith doesn't look bad. And I don't think Corcus cares about Griffith. He just cares about, you know, helping himself, right? So, but Guts, he has no aim for status. Guts just doesn't care about such things. And I admire that about Guts. I admire that he's not greedy or envious or lustful in terms of that. He's just a very simple guy that just wants to swing a sword. That's all he wants to do. Meanwhile, Casca is looking up on the hill at Griffith and Charlotte. It's like a damn rom-com. It's like a three-way love triangle. And Charlotte looks real pretty. She looks very cute there. She's all like, I hate every second of this, watching these guys run around on horses and shoot arrows at foxes. She's like, I hate that. She's like, I don't want to see this fox die. Gross. I feel like Charlotte she'd be in an animal rights group if she could. And so Griffith asks if she dislikes hunting. Right? And there he is, just looking the most suave, looking the most beautiful, just like, hey girl, what's up? A walking red flag in the making. I'm just like, what are you doing with yourself? So Charlotte, Griffith asks if she dislikes hunting. You know, he's making small talk, something Guts would never do. asks if she dislikes hunting. What's the deal? And honestly, Charlotte gives, girl is doing well. I would be like awestruck by Griffith's model good looks. Like I would be just like, what are you talking about? Like, even though I say I wouldn't, I would. But she actually gives him a legit question to answer, right? She asks and expects an answer to a legit question. Like, girl holds her own, but here's the thing. This is so bizarre to me. I love it. As they all ride by, she suddenly, it's like she's enamored with him for a second, and then she remembers where she is. She's just like dazed by him, and she's like, oh yeah, right, you asked me a question. She goes, well, she's like, I've never actually been on a hunt before. This is the first time that my dad made me come out to go on this stupid hunting trip. My father compelled me to go with him. And it's not because he wanted her by his side. The king's way off over there talking to his guys. He brought her out here to set her up with Griffith, right? I'm fully convinced of it. But I do not think I should like such a thing as hunting. It's a very elegant answer, right? She thinks that she shouldn't. She thinks that she shouldn't like it. And she calls it cruel. Because, yeah, they're just chasing this animal down until they wear it out and kill it, right? She's like, it just seems like it's a cruel thing. And then she says, so is war. Why do most men commit such affairs that only produce bloodshed? So see, she says it's cruel like war and asks why men commit violent acts. Like, why? She's like, they only produce bloodshed. Why do men produce such violence? Like, she asks a very legit pageantry question, right? And do you know how Griffith answers this pageantry question that could make her look unfavorably at him? He doesn't answer it. Instead, he plucks a leaf off of a tree and makes a little whistling sound with it and goes with it. And she's like, oh my. And he distracts her, gets her to pluck the leaf off, and then she's not good at it. And she does exactly what I would do. She's like, pfft. Right? And he's like, oh, no, you hold it like so and softly place it on your lips. And that's it. So a number of things happen in this one sequence. One, as far as we are concerned, Griffith does not answer the question. Griffith is a master at dodging questions. He is a master of being non-confrontational when it comes to answering questions. Because Griffith does not want to botch this. Griffith's like, I gotta win this girl over so that she'll be my queen and I can become king of this kingdom. She's a hot ticket there. The dad's clearly set us up on this date, so I gotta make sure this goes over well. If he goes and gives her an answer, either she's not gonna like the answer and she's gonna be kind of like distant to him and be like, oh, I don't like that answer. Like, you're for war? Okay, no, thank you. Or she's going to like the answer, but then when he does things that invoke war, she's going to be like, so are you a hypocrite? So he can't answer the question because if he answers it, any answer he gives her could work unfavorably towards him. If he tells her that this is why we have war, this is the purpose of it, and she's like, well, that's what my father and all the other guys say, and she doesn't like the answer, then he's botched it. But then if he says, oh, well, no, I don't like war, this is like this, and then she'll be like, well, then why are you a general and why are you fighting in a mercenary group? Then he's screwed either way. It's damned if he does, damned if he don't. So instead he distracts her. He distracts her with the leaf. But, I mean, I guess you could also say a third answer could be was when she's like, why do people commit such violent acts? I guess the answer could be, if he does the leaf thing, he's like, oh, it's so we can have moments like this where we play with the leaves and it's just you and me. It's so that we can have peace and love and all this. That's why we're at war right now. Like, it kind of comes off as one of those things, but I believe it's more the former. Griffith's like, I don't want to answer this question. I'm doomed if either way. There's no right answer to this question, so I'm going to avoid it. It's genius. And it distracts her because she doesn't, bless her heart, bless her bones, she just gets distracted. And Casca is just like, just watching them from afar. And then, yeah, we've got them just playing with the leaves and it's all cute and everything. And she's just like, oh, well, isn't this fun? Like just blowing on these leaves. And he's like, you're so simple. Yeah, and she's just like, oh, she smiles at it and laughs about it. But yeah, it's just, And I'm sure Griffith's like, you're very easy to manipulate because this is all it took, right? Now, Casca has a very interesting look on her face when she looks at them up on the hill. It's almost as if Casca likes Griffith. I mean, at this point, it's pretty obvious. But I'm curious, how much does Casca suspect that Griffith is trying to woo Charlotte? Like, how much does she suspect? I'm sure that Casca's going to have the mentality of, oh, well, I gave up my womanhood to become a knight, to become a mercenary, to watch over Griffith, all this stuff. I didn't expect to be with him, blah, blah, blah. But deep down, it's like, you feel like Casca wants to be with him. She wants Griffith to acknowledge her, and I'm sure if she were on the receiving end of that, I don't think Griffith would be teaching her how to blow into a leaf. But she kind of just smiles, and then she looks kind of sorrowful, like I'm just going to get away from the situation, like whatever. And she just kind of trots away, and Guts kind of looks at her like, women, I don't understand them, But that's kind of, I feel for Casca, right? I feel for Casca because it's hard when you clearly like somebody and they clearly like someone else. Except Casca doesn't realize, maybe she does realize, that Griffith is just using Charlotte for the throne. Maybe she realizes that and she's okay with it. I don't know. I do like the moment where Guts looks back at her, though, because it shows he's paying attention to her. It shows that Guts is watching Casca. He's paying attention to her. He's at least, I mean, I can't say that he's trying to understand her, but he's at least observing and realizing that she's having a reaction. So yeah, so we have this whole idea, I'll put it here, and the idea of Casca. Is she jealous? I mean, I don't know. IDK. I don't know if Casca's jealous because I feel like on the one hand, Casca realizes that her and Griffith could probably never be in a romantic relationship because of where they're at, both in their statuses. But I feel like Casca mainly, she wants to protect Griffith more than anything, and the romantic stuff doesn't really even come into the equation. But, so I don't know if she's jealous of Charlotte if she's not even putting romance on the table. And Guts isn't jealous of Charlotte because Guts is oblivious. Oblivious about Charlotte. I don't think Guts even realizes what Griffith is doing. I think Casca knows. I think she's picked up on the fact of what Griffith is doing. I think she's picked up what Griffith's laying down. But Guts has no clue. Guts is like, what? I feel like if Griffith planned the wedding between him and Charlotte, Guts would be like, wedding? Who's getting married? When did this happen? Like, Guts has no clue. Not a clue at all. And he looks up at Griffith and Charlotte, but it's like he doesn't get it, right? And then Julius, of course, is like, oh my God, I hate every second of this. No, that swollen head. I'm like, don't you make fun of Griffith. And so they try to find an opportunity to shoot him with the arrow, and then lo and behold, it happens. The horse gets spooked, and they both look at each other like, now's our chance! And then Griffith goes after her to save her. And he goes after the horse. And I mean, I made fun of Charlotte a little bit in the actual episode because I was like, girl, just pull on the reins. Like, don't you know how to ride this horse? But I mean, in the moment, she was probably terrified and didn't want to fall off the horse, which I don't blame her. I'd be in the same boat. I wouldn't want to fall off that horse either. So, but Griffith just jumping off his horse and like slowing the other one down. He does everything right in this moment. I kept wondering if the archer, if Hale was going to hit her instead. And I'm like, that would have been such a mess. But he does not. He's patient. And I do feel for Charlotte because I love what she does here where she gives him a hug. She's like, I was so scared. And she just gives him this big hug. And I'm like, girl, I don't blame you. She's like, I thought I was in trouble and you saved me. Thank you. Like, she gives him this big old hug. And then she just laughs. Like, wasn't this silly? Wasn't this the silliest thing that happens? I like Charlotte. I do. I feel bad for her because she is so being used and does not realize it. But I feel for her because she seems like a genuinely nice character. She's a nice girl. And she's just hugging Griffith, And then she's like, thank you for saving me. I've never ridden a horse so fast before in all my life. She's like, she did the little doki doki with the heart. And then she feels embarrassed, but Griffith's like, it's fine. We'll just go back now. And that's when he gets hit with the arrow. Like, I was not expecting the arrow to, like, shoot through his heart. And And then she notices, and then of course Guts is like, Griffith, my bae! Like comes up there. Like Griffith and Casca have like the biggest reactions because Casca and Guts are both gaga over Griffith, so of course they would have the biggest reactions, right? What's fascinating about this is Casca runs to Griffith's side and catches him. Casca's holding him. Casca's making a big deal about this. And Charlotte's like over here to the side, like, hi. Like, it's all my fault. I'm sorry. Like, so Casca, there's this really interesting dynamic where she is watching over Griffith in this moment. I feel like it's going to come to a head, right? I feel like it's going to come to a head because here's the problem. Even though the mercenary group, they all treat Casca as one of them. They're like, she gave up her womanhood. She's a mercenary like us. She's going to be a knight like us. The problem is, it's cool that the group, the Band of the Hawk, acknowledges her like that. Do I think the court is going to acknowledge her like that? I don't know. And my fear is that when Griffith decides to become king, he's doing all this to marry her. And when he does that, he is going to have to distance himself from Casca. He can't be king and have a queen and have one of his attendants be a woman. That's going to be a big no-no. Especially a woman like Casca, who is so doting and so over Griffith. Because every time Griffith gets hurt, Casca is like the first one there, her and Guts, right? And, you know, the court's going to be like, oh, well, Guts and them, they're just bros. They're just bros. They're best bros. It's a bromance. It's like they're just, like, give each other the big high five, like biceps bulging. Like, they're just bros. It's fine. But with Casca there's going to be some sexist people on the Midland court who's going to be like, oh, well, her and Griffith are having an affair, you know, and try to blame Griffith on having an affair to oust him from the throne, because they'll say that him and Charlotte, he's having an affair on Charlotte with Casca. So what I see after this episode is that Griffith is going to want to distance himself from her. Slowly but surely, he's going to want to push Casca further and further so he can get closer to Charlotte. Now, I don't think Casca's going to be jealous of Charlotte because of her being with Griffith. I think she's going to be mad because she cares for Griffith, and Griffith, like Guts, is one of her top priorities in life. And if she can't help Griffith and watch over him, what's the point? Because we established back when Guts first joined the Band of the Hawk that a lot of these guys are only here because of Griffith. I mean, Judo and Pippin and Rickard, we don't know why they're here. Corcus seems to be here for the status and the money. And Guts is here for Griffith, and Casca's here for Griffith. So if he has nothing to do with them, then what's their purpose? You know? So I'm going to be curious to see, like, what are we going to do with Casca the longer this whole courtship goes on? Because eventually there's going to be a breaking point. Because she's like, are you all right? And then they're like, Captain, hold on. And she's like about to cry. And Charlotte's just looking down like, oh my God, what's happening? Like, what is going on? And I love that Guts turns to her. He's like, Princess, hey, who shot that arrow? And Guts like shakes her. We established the last episode, or episode 7, that Charlotte's scared of like big brutish guys. You don't get much more big and brutish than Guts. So of course she's terrified of him. And so he freaks her out. I'm glad that Julius and nobody else was around, because if they saw Guts manhandle her like that, she probably would freak out. And then Guts, of course, is like, I'll find him and kill him. Where are they at? And so they said, any scratch of that poison will send him to hell. And Casca's like about to cry. And I love that Griffith does the hand on the face. He does that a lot with Casca. He's like, just a hand on the face. Like, it's okay, girl. It's all right. Don't panic. The moment he said, do not panic, I'm like, what the hell is going on? And he's smiling, being like, luck favors me indeed. Like, I'm okay. And Judo's like, how are you okay? I like that Judo's like the first one on the ground, like, how? How are you okay? What's going on? And then Guts is like, Griffith, what is it? And he's like, no, we're all good. He's like, this, and he pulls the arrow out. He's like, this served as my shield. The Behelit. It had a little piece of it out, like a chunk, but then it seems to be perfectly fine when he pulls it out. I'm like, that is creepy as hell. So the Behelit saved him. The Behelit, it was like when people have like a book in their jacket and the bullet hits the jacket. The Behelit saved him. Now, this is interesting because we've established that the Behelit is, it does an exchange. It will make you a ruler of the world in exchange for your flesh and blood. So, I mean, I took it as it was going to cause like a sacrifice of either parts of Griffith or his own troop. But maybe Griffith's like, well, I got to kill Julius now to sacrifice it to the Behelit so it'll keep me in line. But no, what I really think it is that the Behelit, they say like, oh, it's a shield from evil. It's almost like a way of changing fate in the weirdest of ways, because him wearing it, everything like seems to go Griffith's way as long as the Behelit's involved. Like the sword fight with Guts, and the idea of like battles and how they've been determined, and the idea of saving him from Zod, the idea of saving him from the poison arrow. Like this Behelit like literally has saved him from everything, right? Like very, very creepy. And it almost seems like the idea of, if you have this with me, it's like a good luck charm. Everything will go your way as long as you have this. So what do we do with that? And so there's that idea that he's going to be fine thanks to the Behelit, and that it saved him in that moment. He's like, it's a miracle, and they call it the devil's luck. So that's been brought up twice now, right? There's been this idea of the devil's luck. It was brought up with Guts. Griffith said you have the devil's luck in battle. And now it's been brought up with Griffith as well. And there's this idea that was brought up earlier in episode 7 about there being no difference between angels and demons. They're both these supernatural entities. Someone's angel is another person's devil. So I honestly think there's a connection there. Now, how does that have to do with Guts? We don't know yet. But he's like, it seems like quite the coincidence that this little egg protected him from a poison arrow. Definitely some kind of luck. And then the archer runs away. And then Casca's like, well, I like that Casca was like, remove your armor just in case. She's like, undress for me right here, right now. And he's like, no, girl, no. At that point, I was like, okay, Casca, he is going to start distancing himself from you because she's so worried that he's going to get hurt. She's like, if you guys scratch, what should happen if you had a scratch and the worst thing should happen? And he just goes, like, Casca, believe me, I'm fine. Like that little sigh being like, girl, I'm not undressing for you. But I think that that's a sign that Griffith is going to be like, Casca, you are too clingy. You are too demanding of me being safe. He's like, I'm fine. You need to cool it. So I wonder if Griffith is going to try to like push Casca more towards Guts. And like, here, go talk with Guts or something like that. And so he can get in with Charlotte. I don't know. But I feel like he's going to distance himself from Casca in the future so he can keep working up the ladder, right? Because he says he's fine. I escaped without a scratch on my body. And she's like, but what if? And then that's when the princess is literally between them. Like, she is figuratively. You can see like the lines of her dress make an arrow that wedges right in between Casca and Griffith. Charlotte is the wedge between the two of them. And I don't think Griffith cares because, one, he has no romantic attraction towards Casca at all. It is completely one-sided and unrequited on Casca's side. And two, Charlotte's his overall goal. He doesn't really have romantic feelings for her either, but he's using her to rise up the ladder. Let's be real. And so I feel like Griffith's just like, Casca, go on now. I've got to play house with the queen so I can get in, you know. But Charlotte is going to be the wedge between Casca and Griffith, right? And she feels bad saying that it was her fault that all this happened. And Griffith leaves Casca to go to her. And he's like, it's our duty to guard you. So this is just part of it. Who in the world intended to kill our captain anyway? And meanwhile, everybody's like, Guts is like, well, let's go look for somebody. And that is when Griffith looks up and sees Julius staring back at him for a hot second. And the look in his eyes, oh my God, the look in his eyes like a hawk looking at its prey. At that moment, Griffith's like, you've got to go. Bye. Time to go. Did I feel like Griffith would always get rid of Julius? Yeah. But Julius is next in line on the throne. He'll have to go anyway. But I feel at that moment, Griffith realizes the extent of how Julius is involved. Griffith has realized, oh, the next in line to the throne thinks that I'm a threat, which I am, but he is also now taking preemptive measures to kill me. We need to nip this in the bud before it gets out of hand. Because when it's just Julius and Hale, it's fine. But if Julius goes to get like an army or goes to get like a group of assassins or starts threatening people in his band, it's gonna become annoying. And Griffith's like, I don't have time for annoying. I'm trying to become king. So I think at that moment, the moment he looked at Julius, it was like, no, it's over. You're going to get killed. And he's like, wow, this poison's quite expensive. This poison. And he's smiling like Griffith knows. At this point, he's like, yeah, I figured out it's him. He was sloppy and they did not do well with this. Because, yeah, an ordinary band of thieves wouldn't have access to this poison. Not at all. So then we cut to Julius and Hale, and they're just like, you moron. Like, the king's, it all worked out in his favor, everything. The king ended up praising him more because he saved the princess. And now the kingdom's calling him a hero. Which, again, I think is tied to Behelit. Like, the good luck of the Behelit. Like, everything evil planned against Griffith backfired. Like, not only did he not get poisoned, but now the kingdom likes him even more. The king likes him even more. And Julius and them did not conquer their goal. It's like, it's like Griffith can do no wrong, right? And that's when we see the attendant listening in on them. He's like, as if a trifling thing to be held in contempt. I am worlds apart from that man of common birth. But yeah, in that moment, his eyes were focusing like a beast on its prey. Yes, he gazed at me the way a hawk would gaze at prey. And you see that moment where it's white, and he's like, "Oh no, that can't be. He's not gonna kill me. Ha ha ha. He wouldn't do that." And here's the thing: Griffith wouldn't. Griffith wants him dead. He knows he has to kill him, but he knows he can't be caught because that will put everything in jeopardy. So, if Griffith knows he has to kill Julius, he knows that Casca and Corcus and them, he can't rely upon them because that's going too far. It's very unlike Griffiths to plan an assassination for their employers, right? That's the thing. His employers, they're giving us money. We can't just start assassinating them. If we get caught, we're dead or we won't have a job, right? So he knows he can't turn to them, but Guts has no use for proper society and traditions. Guts doesn't care. He just wants to protect Griffith, and he has made that known to Griffith several times now. So Guts is like, aha, I know what I've got to do. I can't quite describe in words what the library scene, the study scene with Griffith and Guts does for me on an aesthetic, personal, spiritual, romantic level. I can't tell you all how it makes me feel. You can't write fanfic that's this good of him going into the room here, right? I mean, you could write fanfic. God, I'm sure there's fanfic of this scene. I'm sure there's extended scenes of this. I know there is. If there isn't, there needs to be. But he's like, can you wait a moment? I'm finishing up something very soon. And Guts is like, well, look at all these books. It felt like a Beauty and the Beast moment where he's like, look at all this. And Guts is like, what the hell's... And could you imagine like if Griffith was the Beast and he's like, this library is yours. And Guts is like, I can't read. I'm surprised he pulled up a book and opened it because I didn't think Guts could read. Because it just doesn't seem like something Guts would do in the line with the mercenaries that he was with. It just didn't seem like something he would know of the skill for. And he says, you've gotten more and more books. And have you read them all? This feels like a date scene. This feels like when your crush or your boyfriend comes in and he's just looking around the house and he's just like, so you like books? Like, it just feels like a date moment, right? It does. And he's just sitting there with his hands in his pocket looking buff as hell, the gym rat boyfriend, and Griffith's like, you simple boy. And he's got his hair pulled back in that little Alexander Hamilton ponytail. And he's like, yes, almost. He's like, when you become so distinguished, you must do more than battle. I freaking love that because that's such a pompous, preppy line where he's just like, dear Griffith. He's like, Guts, sweetheart. He's like, you just go and battle all the time. He's like, when you're distinguished like me, he's like, Daddy's got to bring home the bread somehow. I can't. Yeah, he's like, when you become distinguished, you must do more than battle. You have to educate yourself and wear like furry frocked collars. And Guts is just like, whatever. He's like, I really just read them out of mere curiosity. And I'm like, mere curiosity, sure, okay. And so they talk about history and religion and philosophy, chemistry and tactics, which are interesting. But then he also says there are even books about applying makeup and a book on cooking. Like, like Griffith is just this worldly man. He's got to be ready for any challenges that come up his way, right? I'm like, now I want to know about Griffith applying makeup. I'm like, what is that? I feel like, is that like a double meaning? Like he's talking about applying makeup, like putting on a face, putting on a mask and appearing like something you're not, and is cooking like scheming to make plans of assassination? Is that a double layered meaning, or are you really just wanting to know how to make a 5-star dinner for your boo and get all pretty? I mean, there are so many. I want to know which book Guts cracked open. I want to know which book Guts cracked open like a barbarian in the middle of the book. like what did you? He didn't open from the beginning. He just like someone that's never read before just opened up the book midway and was like, okay, where am I? Let me look smart. Let me look as smart as I can. I'm like, what? Wait, what? Hold on. He's like, what's the problem? And that's when he like, I love the symbolism of like the red melting the wax and it's like blood and it drips on there and just stamps it. What I want to know is, what is he writing? What is he writing and what is he sending? Because he has this document here. He puts the seal on it and then he stamps it, and the stamp looks like a crest. It looks like a royal crest, right? And he's clearly been looking at a book as reference. So was he like forging something? Was he trying to like copy something to send? It's like a decree. What he's got in these writing that stamps is like a royal decree almost. Is it something to do with Julius? I don't know. But I don't know. This image of Griffith and Guts sitting like across from each other in the study with the candlelight and everything, and Guts with his legs crossed and the book open. I'm like, they could not look more like a couple scheming together than if we tried. Like, they could not look more like a couple scheming. There's no way. So then Griffith says, I want you to kill someone for me. Like, I like the book in between, like the darkness of the stack of books. I want to ask you to kill a man for me. And his eyes just look so like lustful there in that moment. And then he like explains everything, and we cut to Guts at the base of the tower with the cloak on. Now my thing is, he has that big ass sword. Anybody that sees a man leave the tower with a big ass sword and then sees Guts like 2 seconds later is gonna know that it's Guts. Let's be serious. So I'm like, I would have just like tucked the cloak over the sword so that nobody could see it, but whatever, you do you. And then he just kind of stares at it. He says, kill a man. Who? He says, the man who's next in line to the throne of Midland, the general of the White Dragons, Count Julius. And Guts's eyes get kind of wide there. Like I love the way he's animated. Like his eyes get really wide, and he's like, oh, you want me to kill him? That seems very unlike you. And then he pulls the arrow out and says, the reason is this. Like, he kept the poison arrow, and Guts is like, what is this? And Griffith goes on this explanation to Guts of why to kill him. He's like, oh, well, he poisoned me. And he does the whole Sherlock, explanation about the poison, and that he had the receipts tracked down to find out that Hale purchased the poison, and he's one of Julius's men. So he's like, it was an assassination attempt, Guts. He's like, they tried to kill me. Like, we have to get rid of them, or they might try to do it again. And what's so interesting is that he goes on and on about this reasoning, and he's like, it's no different than fighting. He does everything he can in this moment to convince Guts of why he should kill Julius. He's like, well, this is why he did it. The poison traces back to him. All of this, all of that. It's no different than fighting someone in battle. This is exactly like it. It's just a tactic. We're just using a one-on-one scenario. Like, come on, Guts, let me convince you to go kill him. And he's like, it's a dirty task, and failure could never be allowed. And Guts just looks at him. He's like, you can't be seen either. And he says, on account of the difficulty, I'm asking if you would undertake the task. Will you undertake it for me? That for me. Would you do it for me, Guts? Would you? I gave my life for you how many times? Would you do it for me, buddy, old pal? That is like, the manipulation there is so... But what's so fascinating is that Griffith lays it on so thick with the reasoning and every little detail of why Guts should be implied to do it. And the funny thing is, that wasn't necessary. Guts just looks at him, and then he just kind of stares for a little while, and he smiles. That little smile where he's like, you really didn't think I would do it for you, did you? Like, I feel like Guts thought in this moment this was his chance to, like, and yes, Griffith, where Griffith was like, does a man need any reason to protect another man on the battlefield? And this is Guts' chance to go, and yes, here's my response. Like, this is his chance to get right back at him. That little tiny smile that he makes is one of my favorite Guts expressions so far. Like, he's just looking down, being like, Griffith has trusted me with this task. And it's just like he's prepping his little rebuttal. He's like, he doesn't know what I'm about to say and how much Griffith means to him. God, I love that face! I love that expression. It's the best thing in this episode. He says, this isn't like you. And it's not. Like, Griffith usually isn't like this. But he really wants Julius gone. And he can't do it himself because there's too big of a risk of him getting discovered. So he needs Guts to do it instead for him. And Guts says, you should just order me to do it without saying all this other crap. And he just looks at Griffith like, And we don't get to see Griffith's response, damn it. I want to see Griffith be like, oh, like that. But yeah, Guts was just like, come on, you trust me. Like, this is, you can only entrust me to do it. All right. The thing about it is it's kind of a dick move in a little sense that Guts is Griffith is entrusting Guts to this task. Because if Guts gets caught, he's dead. If it comes out later that Guts did it, he's dead. Like, it's all of this is going to come back on Guts more than anything. And we know that Guts is not going to make an excuse and blame Griffith. He's not going to do it. No, he's going to be like, no, I took up the task. I'm the one that said, yes, I'll do it. Guts is going to take the fall. No matter, Guts is the one at risk of taking the fall. Griffith is not. And it's a bold move for Griffith to be like, come on, Guts, you'll do this, old buddy, old pal, right? And Guts says yes. I'm baffled. I'm baffled, y'all. I'm baffled. So yeah. And then we see on top of the building, we see at the very top of the building, right? I'm going to go up there. He's sitting at the top, ready to go in, looking down. And just as the freeze frame on his face. Oh, It took a long ass time for those credits to start. I will be honest. I was getting a little freaked out that the credits were going to change on us. Griffith is so smooth. He is such a good manipulator. And he has control of all of the chess pieces at this point. Like, I feel like he knows he has Casca in the bag. Casca's going to be loyal to him no matter what. He knows Guts is, right? He knows he has a good band of mercenaries who are going to do what he asks because they want the wealth and status that he wants. And he knows he has Charlotte, like, in the bag. The king's in the bag. We just get rid of Julius and we get the court cleaned up. Drain the swamp. And he's got it made. Griffith. So interesting. I'm curious to see how this whole assassination thing goes down next episode and what we get. But yeah. So I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below. Please no spoilers, hints, or clues, but this episode, it was absolutely fantastic, and I could watch it over and over again, so I may. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Berserk. Bye!